Yeah, and there's still a lot of companies that we sell to that, you put up a screenshot of a user's profile on Tungle and they go, oh, wait a second, that's got all my stuff on it, right? I had that reaction when I did a demo of Tungle at one of our conferences in May. And so I've started doing my demos now logged out of Tungle, and I eventually log in, right? But so there's still a lot of companies that are real paranoid about where is this data going, especially remote devices, Blackberries and iPhones and that. And it's an interesting issue because if I am in a company that decides one day I don't need, I'm not needed anymore, and they go do a remote wipe, my personal data is probably on that device too, and I had no shot to get to it, right? So there's all sorts of interesting implications of who owns my data. In email, I get that, right? In email, yeah, okay, fine, I left the company, you want your email back, no problem. But the calendar is kind of like me, right? That's me as an individual. So there's definitely some issues that haven't really been worked through yet, and that people are going to struggle with.
And how do you think it's going to evolve?
I think that having aggregation points, I think having redundant data. I mean, it's great they can wipe my BlackBerry, but it's on Tungle right now, so I know that I've got a copy there. I just hope that nobody goes and syncs and overwrites it tomorrow. Mm-hmm. But I think redundant data, I think overlays, publishing through CalDAV and things like that, some of which we have to catch up on, admittedly, give people some ability to own their own data around their own self and overlay that and marry it with their professional environment. But I think that line's very, very blurry, and I don't expect we're going to move to any point of clarity. I think the nature of work has changed so much that trying to keep your work life and your personal life completely separate and secure from each other, in 2015, we won't even think about that concept.
Interesting. And so if you look at, back when it was client server, you've had, your company had your data on their server, and then it started to migrate towards the web, right? What were some of the privacy concerns back when it started? Actually, there's still now,
it's still
right?
there, yeah.
Yeah, but okay, so what were the challenges? And some of them have already been brought down. Like if you look at Salesforce, I think Salesforce has done a good job in educating people that the cloud is safe, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're at a point where not everybody's bought in, right? We did a survey with one of our resellers. 600 people filled it out in the last few weeks. More than half the participants in the survey said, we'll never do anything in the cloud. Yeah, it's 2010, right? So are those banks, are those government agencies, are those insurance companies, are they manufacturing? I haven't gone and looked at that data yet, but half of them just said no cloud, period. But the other half were like, oh yeah, cloud's an inflection point, great opportunity for us, we want to do more. And it's the pervasive access, it's the fixed cost of operation. I mean, there's all those benefits. So I think there are still many, many issues that companies need to get their heads around of, okay, my data is going to live somewhere else, and that's okay. But what data is it that's going to be okay if it lives out there? We look at in the email world, in the archiving space, right? There's the traditional on-premise, heavy-duty IBM Common Store kind of content management stuff that is really secure and really well managed. And then there's, in the cloud archiving providers like Asonian, who are just treating it like any other data feed that's going to go live on an Amazon server, and with the right passwords and other authentication, you're going to get to it. So it's a risk factor thing. And a lot of companies that are, risk adverse are not going to go there. A lot of companies that say the trade-offs are worth it, like many decisions about sort of Web 2.0 in general right now, are going to say this is okay for us. We know the risks. The user's in control, or we as an entity are still in control enough that this is okay. But you still find plenty of people that in 2010 aren't ready to be on Facebook, aren't ready to be on LinkedIn, aren't ready to be on Twitter. Those are the kind of people that probably are still not ready to have their corporate data living out in the cloud. On the other hand, there is Salesforce, there is Google Apps, there is Lotus Live, and companies are hungry for that kind of, SaaS business model, and are willing to accept the risk to get the benefit of predictable service, always upgrading, fixed cost, and sort of all the other benefits. So I think privacy is a concern, but I think there's a lot of other pieces to the mix. And then I think the other question that really has to be answered is how much sharing do I end up doing? I think in most companies still, people don't make their calendar wide open. They don't let people see what they're working on. And there has to be a way to make that socially acceptable in the company, just like it has been to share my documents and share my knowledge, right? Because, I mean, we've gone down this curve in collaboration in general. When we started shipping notes 20 years ago, we had to teach companies why it would be good to share the information that everybody had in the company. Most companies were, my knowledge is my value to the company. And so our first notes customers actually had to put incentive programs in place for humans to get compensated for putting stuff into notes databases. It's kind of the same with calendars. I still don't really feel comfortable telling people what am I spending my time on every day. My own staff, though, probably could really benefit from seeing which customers I'm meeting or what projects I'm choosing to spend my time on, what are my priorities, more than at a once-a-month staff meeting or whatever. So there's still a cultural barrier, and I see that in lots of our customers, and I think it just stems from the personal nature of calendar.